Good evening and welcome to the specially called meeting. I need an approval of agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
9-0. Next up is approval of the consent agenda. Second? Oh, sorry. All in favor? Aye. 9-0. That includes the personnel, right? Okay. Okay, next up is the 2024 superintendent's budget proposal.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, Board. Good evening, Team UCPS. Thank you for this specially called meeting. We are pleased tonight to present my recommended budget for the next school year. Ms. McLam is going to go through a series of slides that you have been provided a hard copy of, as well as in board docs. At the end, I will provide a high-level summary of some of the potential changes and impacts of this budget, and then we'll open it up for board discussion, comments, or questions. So we can save our questions to the very end, and we'll let Ms. McLam proceed. So, Ms. McLam, thank you.
Good evening, everybody. So it's been a definitely a long budget season this year. So I know we're normally a little earlier in the year. So I appreciate you all letting us get a little extra time to get through the budget process and make sure we put together the best plan that we can for this school year. So as we normally do, we'll go through the budget priorities. We'll go the detail of the local operating and local capital. Operating capital, we'll have a summary, and then at the end, there's statistical information and things that I did share, I think, previously when we met with our joint meeting. So as always, our initial priority is to make sure that we can sustain operation and address any potential increases in operational cost annually that we have to cover for utilities, insurance, and other items, as well as the employee compensation items that are related to potential state increases and retirement benefit rates. One of the primary things we've been working on the last couple of years is our middle school athletics process. We're now in the final year, which is year 3 of middle school, the transition plan for middle school athletics. And as we normally do, we have multiple items on our capital improvement plan that we will discuss for transportation, facility maintenance, repair needs, our normal band items that we bring forward to you, and some other additional infrastructure needs that we've identified for this school year. So when we get to the local operating, so we're in year 2 of a biennium state budget. So we do have some knowns. I've not heard a lot of changes coming out so far. We are planning for a 3% overall increase on our non-certified staff, as well as our certified. So we're trying to build in a projected overall average of 3%. Our enrollment right now, we do not have a DPI enrollment projection. They are shifting our funding formula. So next year, they're going to fund us based on our 40th day count for this current school year. So they're not providing enrollment projections at this time. We do know that our health insurance is increasing, as well as a potential increase of about 2% in for our retirement rate. One of the primary focuses of this budget that you'll see is on local compensation for our teachers, principals, and assistant principals. I have detailed here where our current local supplement ranks statewide. We're at number 50. The last local teacher supplement that we did was in 2022. We've also assessed and looked at the principals as well as the assistant principal local supplement. It's been much longer for those. It's been since 2015 since we addressed their local supplements. So when we had our joint meeting, the county presented a penny value for this coming school year. So with the current tax rate that's been adopted and the bifurcated budget or bifurcated tax rate, the penny value and the portion that is UCPS right now is 36.45 pennies, which should generate an appropriation for next year of 147,310,000. That's both operating local operating and operating capital budgets. So in this proposed budget, we've spent a lot of time going through our budgets. We have found some redirects and have identified a little over $4 million in redirects. Those redirected funds have been dedicated primarily to covering some of the staff compensation items that you see on the screen. Our normal items that I mentioned before with insurance and utility costs that we do for sustaining operations, and the items that we're planning for increases related to state salary and benefit changes. Charter school enrollment continues to be one of the items that has become a larger budget item on our local budget request. Every time we have any increase in our appropriations dollars, as well as any changes in the funding that is dedicated and legislated for us on a per pupil basis to charter school students, we do make those adjustments in our local budget. You'll see year 3 of the implementation of the middle school athletics. So the way we've got this listed, including redirects, our proposed county appropriation for next year is $127,454,180. That is an increase over this current year of little over $4.7 million. Some of the items that were included in our assessment when we went through and evaluated some of the additional needs from across the district, we've talked several times about ESSER sustainability and some of the things that we would like to sustain. So we have included, as just with a note, we do have a slide that includes that information just so that the public, and when we submit this to the county commission, we've presented to them our full need for the district. So I'm going to move on to the operating capital plan. So as always, we continue to address any aging facilities and maintenance needs that we need to, we have a plan that we put forward for you all every year. I believe that has already been approved through the facilities committee and has come to you all. So we've built that or used that to build this current budget ask for the capital. Continuing to address the needs of our school technology for student, for upgrades and failing devices, as well as infrastructure needs that we've identified. Fleet replacement continues to be a top priority too. We've had a lot of older vehicles that we've been really trying to put forward the same plan and using the same replacement cycle that the county uses in assessing their need. So our current capital need, we have done some shift in what we've seen in prior years, as we've discussed. We've shifted some one-time needs that we have for infrastructure. So if you'll look, the first category for the facility operating capital is $11.9 million. Our normal leases that we pay for student laptops and teacher laptops. Sorry, I missed transportation. Transportation does have a pretty high line item this year. They are looking to replace the radios due to the changes that the county's making on their frequency for the emergency management and other. I don't really know all the details about it, but I know we have had discussions about the changes to the towers that they need to make. That does mean that we need to change out the radios on all of our buses, the handheld units and others that they have, the base stations that they have in each school. And so this is part of their ask for this year. So technology, we have our student laptops and teacher laptop leases that we have in our budget every year. As you'll see, I've got what year we are in each one of those for this coming year, where we are in that replacement process. Porter Ridge High School is the next band and high school that is in our band replacement cycle that we have. They will receive their $50,000 this coming school year. And then the classroom furniture and infrastructure needs, We have some classroom furniture. It's probably been a little over 10 years since we had a regular replacement cycle for any of our classroom furniture. We are looking right now to identify any replacement needs, assessing where we are. We've had some small line item amounts in years past budgets. That was really just to address the immediate needs you might have if something breaks. So we're trying to get more, get back to addressing some more of our classroom furniture needs. Then our migration for our phone system, we do have a legacy system, and with the new schools that we're building, there are some needs for us to upgrade that system to ensure that we are not going to end up in a situation where our phone systems are not able to be, repaired. So the total capital ask this year is $19,950,805. All right, so I'm going to summarize. So current operating budget for our local operating is $122,690,414. As I detailed before, that increase that we've proposed to address our operating needs and the compensation items is $4.7 million. With a total of $127,454,180 for our total local operating budget. The capital budget, it shows a negative there. We had some additional capital items that the county funded for us. So I've detailed the penny value capital items so that I know it's odd to see a negative, but I'm working through some of those numbers. I think once the county presents their full budget, we'll get a little better idea what the actual numbers will be. But they did tell us in that presentation that our increase for this coming school year was $4,636,880 is our increase. That gets us to the $147,310,110 that you all saw on the penny value slide. That's an additional funding request of $94,000. So this is what I would consider a pretty balanced budget based on some of the discussions that we've had.
So before I start, I want to give a few high-level comments. I want to first thank our senior leadership team as well as Ms. McLam and her finance department for a lot of hard work in preparing for not just the presentation, but the work that goes on behind the scenes to determine how we shift priorities and make a recommendation to the board. I am very proud of this budget recommendation, and I believe when implemented will certainly help move our great system forward. There are many highlights in this budget recommendation, but I believe the very first priority and the most important is that section that we title Investing in Employees. So in this recommendation, the proposed supplement increase for instructional staff is $1,150. That is an annual increase to the teacher supplement. That will move our projected ranking from 50 to 20, assuming no one else does anything. The assistant principal supplement increase is an average of $950, and the principal supplement increase is an average of $1,500. And I just want to say very publicly, I do believe we are standing at a bit of a crossroads when it comes to public education in our county and in our state. And in order to remain competitive and high performing, we have to make the necessary investments, especially in our people. And without recurring funding from our county or the state, we are forced to find that investment from within our own organization. And I do not believe that is a long-term sustainable plan at all. But to that end, we're going to continue advocating for additional recurring dollars at both the county and state level that can go furthermore into investing in our teachers and certified staff. A $1,150 increase is certainly a step in the right direction, but we would like to do a lot more. And that's going to take very strategic partnership at all levels, in my opinion. To highlight those possibilities, if we were to receive an additional $1 million to go towards teacher supplement increases, our ranking would improve to number 17. If we were to receive additional $2 million, our ranking would improve to number 14. If we were to receive an additional $3 million, our ranking on the teacher supplement would increase to number 13. And the key word with all of that is recurring dollars. These have to be invested so that they are annual increases. So I just want to say that the investments that we have found tonight and we're recommending are the direct result of the decisions we've made to find funding from within. This is the largest redirect budget that I've had since my very first one in 2017. And I know these are critical decisions, but I want the board to know we have 100% confidence on implementing this budget request and making sure that our school system is continuing to lead the way on all things academics and non-academics in North Carolina. As Ms. McLam mentioned previously, the recommended budget also covers state mandatory and legislated salary benefits, as well as critical infrastructure needs that we have moving into next year. I also want to remind the public that this is the time in which the additional levels of support we have had for the past 4 years that have been funded by federal ESSER funds are set to expire. And without additional recurring dollars, some of the programs, some of the practices that we've been able to have cannot be sustained. Examples of that are the additional ELL support, having a nurse in every school, additional exceptional children support. And while we as a district really want to sustain those, again, it takes more dollars. If we are unable to receive those additional funds, staff and I have already developed a plan to ensure that our schools remain successful moving forward. So again, without additional recurring funding, we will potentially have a few changes that we anticipate. Number one, the restructuring of some various support programs that have been in place, many of which I just mentioned. Two, the potential reduction of programs or classes offered. And number three, potential impacts to class size changes. But all of that can also be mitigated with additional recurring dollars. So I want to, again, thank our entire team for their hard work on this recommended budget. I really want to thank the Board of Education for your leadership and support. I'm very pleased with the recommendation that we're moving forward. I think it will be a great benefit for our teachers, our assistant principals and principals, and for the organization itself. We are happy to entertain questions or discussion, and I want to thank you all very much for listening and for your support. Thank you.
Dr. Hulan, with the recommended local supplement, where does that bring our starting teacher salary? Or Shauna?
So that puts the average teacher supplement. So when you talk about the starting, that's going to put us at, if you want to know teacher pay, I can give you the supplement amount. The bottom of the scale right now is about 4,500, I believe, is where we start. So it'll be a flat 1150 that adds to that.
I'm referring to total salary.
So right now, the state proposed salary for next year, I believe at A0 is 41,000.
And you add the 45 to that.
Right. That's correct.
Do you know where we stand in regards to like surrounding states like South Carolina, what their starting salary is?
The last information I read, Mr. Price, was that the state was moving forward with a starting salary of, I believe, 46,000, with the goal in 2 years to get to 50. And I may be off a couple of thousand.
For South Carolina.
For South Carolina. That's for South Carolina.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Mr. Sides?
Well, mine is combination more of comments. This is, everybody understands what redirects are, right? That means we're finding the money in-house. We are not getting increased funding from anyone, okay? So we're having to do it in-house, which, as Dr. Houlihan mentioned, could potentially come at a cost. There's no free lunch. But we are determined to do this and ask for whatever else we can get our hands on in order to address compensation where we seriously lag our peers in surrounding counties, as well as the state of South Carolina. We are in a unique position here at UCPS. not only do we compete with the likes of CMS, but we compete with South Carolina. Because if you're a teacher and you live in Union County, chances are you could drive to South Carolina just as easy as you can to CMS. And I've noted that Lancaster County is looking at a bond referendum to build a new 2,000 student high school in Indian Land. Well, you build a new high school, you got to have teachers in it. So where do you think they're going to get them? They're going to try and steal them from wherever they can, including us. So you can't always depend on increasing your supplement to impact everyone, because families are different. They have different needs. There are different situations. But to me, it shows this board's commitment that we are willing and have asked senior staff and our superintendent to make the redirects necessary, because improving compensation for our licensed staff as well as our assistant principals and principals is that high a priority. We will continue, at least I can speak for myself, I will continue to lobby the state, which I'm reading now has projected $1 billion projected surplus for this current fiscal year. 1 billion. Now, do you think maybe they could squeak an extra 1 or 2% pay raise for our teachers out of that? Well, I'm sure going to ask. And as far as our county, we are still, again, I'll speak for myself, but I think I speak for others. We are still going to ask for assistance. Now, I recognize fully the county has other needs. But there comes a time when you have to stand up and say, you know what? We have to do something that's very hard to do. And we have to do it for very good reasons. And we are not the only ones in this basket. Law enforcement is suffering through a lot of the same challenges. Prices have gone up. People are paying more at the pump. They're paying more at the grocery store. So they need to be paid. We can't even begin to keep up with inflation. But we've got to do something. We cannot continue to lose our educators to not just other districts, but to other industries, because there are many other opportunities. And I'm not just talking about real estate. There are many other opportunities for a proven professional educator to move into the private sector versus public education, and probably a lot of positions with a lot less of the headaches. But they choose to be educators. They are professionals. All of our employees are professionals and deserve the best that we can do, as well as deserving the best that our county and our state can do for these people. So I will support this budget, and I will continue to advocate for more, because in my mind, this is not sufficient, not even begin to be sufficient for our professionals. And I will leave no stone unturned, and will challenge in all directions to see what we can do. Thank you.
I have a question. You mentioned that DPI is not doing projections for next year. Is there a reason for that, or do we know?
Because they're shifting the funding model to what they call a funding in arrears. So
Okay.
they're to avoid over allocating ADM. They are funding districts based on their prior year 40th day is the best one of two is what they call it. If they fund you on your prior year, and then if you increase your enrollment, they will give you additional funding. But the way it stands now, when they project and they fund you on that projection, if you don't meet the projection, they only take back half.
Okay.
So in the aspect of trying to ensure that they give out as much money equitably as they can, they're looking at funding it a different way.
Okay.
Well, that depends on the state, how much the state gives us from one year to the next. Right now, our total per pupil, and I don't know it by fund, but our total per pupil is right at like 9,000, 9,500, something like that. That includes federal, state, and local
The
dollars.
per pupil though is different per county, isn't it?
It is.
Yes.
Is it? I got so many numbers rolling around. Like I will get you the answers to every one of these questions for sure. Yeah.
I had a question. Do you know how many charter schools we have here in Union County?
In Union, I think we've got 5, I think right now. There's the potential, or not the potential, a new charter school is opening in the coming school year. That normally pulls the more funding from the district than in a normal year. So I'm using about 500
Gotcha.
projection on what they could, because they're going to be a K-8.
So that individuals will understand when students who live in the county are removed or transfer from public school to charter school, we are still responsible for paying for them.
Right. It's right at 2,600, I think right now is where we're at with the local per pupil piece that I allocate for every resident student that attends a charter school anywhere in the state.
So that means funding from public school is being removed that can be used for, that can be allocated for other things that we really need.
Our total with that,
Right.
our total is $14 million that go to charter school students that come from our local. So that 122 million, you deduct 13 million off the top for charter school.
That's
students.
a lot of money.
And
that
and
can
then
stay
next
in public
year,
school.
virtual.
It does include the virtuals.
Yep.
Used to the virtual charter schools, because they did not have a brick and mortar building, had a set dollar amount that every student received. This year,
Gotcha.
they expanded it to whatever the per pupil, because I mean it's a per pupil based on the county that
Right.
that resident student came from. They received the full per pupil. So we went from like $790 a student to $2,600 a student.
So let me ask this question. The next question is directed to Dr. Houlihan. So when students transition, is there a not a conversation, but maybe like an application or something to find out why they are transferring out of public school?
So we typically strive to have not an exit interview, but when
Gotcha.
when a parent comes to withdraw, Mr. Parker, we've already talked about this for the summer, especially given the voucher system that is out there. It is a normal practice for our data managers, front office staff to ask, why are you leaving and for what purpose? We can go into Power School and make a note as a way to track the number of children who are choosing to leave us and why. But the parent has the right not to answer that question. So it is a normal protocol, but we do not get a response many times.
Many times. Okay.
And can I ask a quick question? With that said, do you have? I know you're saying that a lot of parents don't, but when they do, what is the reasoning for them leaving the public school system?
I can't comment on the specifics.
Gotcha.
We'd have to look into the details. I know that in a lot of cases with charter schools in the nation, they're looking at specialized programming that maybe their current school isn't offering. Smaller class sizes is normally a reason why that I've heard, not necessarily just in Union County, but in other states and other locales, or promises that have been made from a charter school to a family that may or may not be true.
Right.
We've heard that even here in Union County, and so a lot of times what we end up finding is that families that choose to leave us, many of them end up coming back.
Yes.
Especially for high school, because the level of high school charter schools that we have here is not as substantial as your elementary and K-8.
And so to make sure everyone else understands, 'cause some people didn't know, I didn't know that before I came, that, you know, if a student is a resident of Union County, they can attend any charter school within the state. So we would pay for anything. It's not just in Union County. It could be Charlotte, Mecklenburg.
Right. We pay, it varies from year to year depending on where the students are enrolled in a charter school, but we pay anywhere from like 25 to 35 charter schools every month. And it could be for one kid, it could be for 3 kids, it could be for 400 kids, right?
And I might add, Ms. McLam, the finance department has to do all that accounting. You're basically writing the checks to the charter schools for free. We're
Monthly.
basically tracking them down, tracking down their attendance reports, and distributing the funds without any type of compensation for our staff's time.
There
to-
is
in order
no,
to do
yeah,
this.
there is no administrative cost that you can attach to the processing of charter school payments. We do our due diligence. We do verify every roster, especially at the beginning of the school year, or if we see variations within the school year, we make sure we verify that they are truly resident students of Union County. It does take a lot of time. We do a combination of Power School. We look to see if we can find, sometimes you will see some ins and outs. We've caught where there's been names on 2 different rosters for the same month, right? So it could just be timing of when this charter school started school and when this charter school started school. And then we found that then that same student may have re-enrolled in Union County schools. So we do a lot of that. It is very time consuming. It's very tedious, but we do all that at the very beginning of the school year to really ensure that we only pay out what we need to pay out. So, so yes. Sorry, that was a long way to say yes.
That's right.
I just want to thank our superintendent and all staff for your hard work in putting this budget together. I know it wasn't easy, and it was definitely painful, but so I appreciate all of senior staff's work on this budget.
What happens now is the superintendent gave us his budget, and now we look it over and change it, or maybe not, or whether, so
Yeah,
the
so if
next
you
meet,
could accept the budget
We can
as
accept-
presented tonight,
it's
yes.
not on there.
I make a motion to accept the superintendent's budget.
I think, Madam Chair,
Do we have to?
He's presented it to you, and then your job is then to adopt your own.
By, at our May 7th meeting, and we have to give it to the county on the 15th, by the 15th.
No later than the 15th. I
We're
think the
just
calendar
receiving.
had the Friday after that May board
Right,
meeting.
we're not voting, yeah. No, okay. That's when it's due, but we have a meeting on the 7th of May, yes.
Okay, Madam Chair, it appears my motion is not necessary, so
Oh, it's okay.
I'll withdraw.
I'm just looking at the agenda. I need a motion to adjourn.
second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.